Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the starship Horizon's Edge, watching the stars drift past the main view screen. He had been exploring deep space for 15 years, but today felt different. Today, they were heading to a system that nobody had visited in over 300 years. "Sir, we're approaching the Kepler 442 system," said Lieutenant Sam Garcia from his position at the communications station. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel as he checked their sensors. Jake nodded and turned to his science officer. "Dr. Harper, what do our scans show?" Dr. Lisa Harper looked up from her workstation, her eyes bright with excitement. She had been the ship's xenobiologist for 8 years and loved discovering new forms of life. "Commander, I'm reading some very strange energy patterns from the third planet. According to our records, that world should be dead. Too close to. The star, no atmosphere, nothing living there. But," Jake could hear the excitement in her voice, "but I'm detecting what looks like a complex ecosystem. Not just simple life forms, but organized patterns that suggest intelligence." Lisa's hands flew over her controls as she gathered more data. "Sir, this doesn't match any of our records at all." The ship moved closer to the mysterious planet. Through the view screen, they could see a blue and green world that looked surprisingly like Earth. White clouds moved across its surface, and the sensors showed vast oceans and continents covered in what appeared to be cities. "How is this possible?" asked Lieutenant Garcia, staring at the readings on his screen. "Our database says this planet was surveyed 200 years ago. The report said it was a dead rock." Jake frowned as he studied the planet below them. Something was very wrong here. The Galactic Survey Corps was known for being accurate. They didn't make mistakes like this. "Garcia, try to pick up any radio transmissions from the surface," Jake ordered. "If there's intelligent life down there, they might be broadcasting something." Sam adjusted his equipment and began scanning the radio frequencies. Within minutes, his eyes went wide. "Commander, you need to hear this." The bridge speakers crackled to life, filled with a complex series of sounds that seemed to follow mathematical patterns. The signals were clearly artificial, created by intelligent beings, but unlike anything they had heard before, Dr. Harper moved to the communications station to help analyze the signals. "These patterns are incredible. They're using prime numbers, but in a way I've never seen. The complexity suggests a very advanced civilization," Jake made his decision. "Set us on a standard orbital approach. We'll establish a research position and try to make contact." The Horizon's Edge began to move toward the planet, following the same orbital path that thousands of ships had used when approaching new worlds. But as they got closer, something unexpected happened. The ship's engines suddenly stopped responding to commands. Not broken or damaged, but simply unresponsive. The vessel began to drift away from the planet as if pushed by an invisible hand. "What's happening?" Jake demanded. Gripping the arms of his command chair, Chief Engineer Matt Cooper's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. "Sir, the engines are fine. All systems are working perfectly. But something is preventing us from getting any closer to the planet." Dr. Harper checked her instruments frantically. "Commander, I'm detecting an energy field extending far beyond the planet's atmosphere. It's not harmful, but it's definitely keeping us away." Jake had never encountered anything like this in all his years of exploration. "Can we break through it?" "I don't think we should try," Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder rather than fear. "This field isn't attacking us, it's just redirecting us. Like the planet is politely asking us to stay away." Lieutenant Garcia looked up from his station with amazement written across his face. "Sir, I'm receiving a transmission from the surface. It's in perfect English." "Put it on speakers," Jake ordered. A calm, pleasant voice filled the bridge. "Greetings, travelers from the stars. We acknowledge your presence and mean you no harm. However, we must ask that you respect our choice to remain undisturbed. Please understand that this is not from hostility, but from our desire to live in peace." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew in stunned silence. Jake had made first contact with dozens of alien species, but none had ever been so polite while refusing contact. "They speak our language perfectly," Garcia said in amazement. How is that possible? Dr. Harper was studying her readings with growing excitement. Commander, these energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. The technology required to create a planetary defense system like this would be far beyond what any known species possesses. Jake stood up and walked to the view screen, staring down at the beautiful planet that refused to let them approach. How long would it take to build something like this? Based on the energy patterns and the size of the field? Lisa paused to run calculations on her computer. Thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands. This isn't something that could be built quickly. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. If this species had technology that advanced and had been developing it for thousands of years, they might be far older than any civilization the galaxy had ever encountered. Garcia, send a response, Jake said. Tell them we respect their wishes. But ask if they would be willing to share basic information about themselves. Scientific exchange, nothing more. Sam sent the message and they waited. The response came quickly. We appreciate your respectful approach, travelers. However, we have chosen isolation for reasons that are important to us. We wish you well on your journey among the stars, but we must decline all offers of contact or exchange. Dr. Harper looked at her readings again and gasped. Commander, the mathematical complexity of their transmissions suggests they understand our technology better than we do. They corrected 3 errors in our navigation calculations and improved the efficiency of our communications array just by sending us their message. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. They had encountered a species so advanced that they could analyze and improve human technology just by observing their communications. Yet these beings wanted nothing more than to be left alone. Set course for the edge of the system, Jake ordered. We need to report this to Earth immediately. As the horizon's edge moved away from the mysterious planet, Jake couldn't stop thinking about what they had discovered. Somewhere in the galaxy, there was a species so old and so advanced that they had chosen to hide from the rest of the universe. They possessed technology that could easily dominate any other civilization, yet they used it only to protect their solitude. The question that haunted Jake was simple. What had they learned in all those thousands of years that made them choose isolation over contact? And perhaps more importantly, what were they hiding from? The news from Commander Morrison's discovery reached Earth within 3 days through quantum communication networks. Ambassador Helen Carter sat in her office at the Galactic Council headquarters, reading the report for the 5th time. Her coffee had grown cold hours ago, but she couldn't stop studying the impossible data. Helen had represented humanity's interests in the Galactic Council for 12 years. She had seen many strange discoveries, but nothing like this. A planet that could defend itself. A species that spoke perfect English but refused all contact. Technology that was thousands of years ahead of anything the galaxy had ever seen. Her assistant, Captain Nick Barnes, knocked on her door and entered with a concerned expression. Ambassador, the Council is requesting an emergency session. They want to discuss the Terra 7 situation immediately. Helen looked up from the report. Terra 7 was what they were calling the mysterious planet now. How many species have requested the meeting? All of them, Nick replied. Even the Vorthic and the Zephyrians. When those 2 ancient races agree on something, it's serious. Helen gathered her files and headed to the council chambers. The massive circular room was already filled with representatives from dozens of different species. The air hummed with translated conversations as aliens discussed the strange discovery in their own languages. At the center of the room stood the Vorthic Elder Zarthal, a being made of living crystal who had been alive for over 50,000 years. His voice resonated through the chamber's speakers as he spoke. Fellow beings of the galaxy, we face something unprecedented. A species that possesses technology beyond our understanding, yet chooses complete isolation. In all my years, our combined histories, we have never encountered such a thing. A Zephyrian representative, appearing as a glowing energy form, flickered as it spoke. Our records span 400,000 years. We have documentation of every major civilization that has existed in this galaxy, yet there is no mention of Terra 7 or its inhabitants. Helen stood up to address the council. Members of the council, Earth requests permission to send our leading xenorchaeologist to study this situation. Dr. Alex Bennett has experience with ancient civilizations and might be able to provide insights. The council voted quickly, and within hours Dr. Bennett was on his way to the council headquarters. Alex was a quiet man in his 50s who had spent his entire career studying the remains of dead civilizations. He had never encountered a living, ancient culture before. When Alex arrived, Helen showed him all the data from Commander Morrison's encounter. The energy readings, the communication transcripts, and the analysis of the planetary defense system. Alex studied everything carefully, making notes on his tablet computer. "This is remarkable," Alex said after several hours of study. "The energy pattern suggests this technology has been in continuous operation for an extremely long time. Based on the decay rates and the quantum signatures, I would estimate at least 2 million years." Helen felt her heart skip a beat. 2 million years, are you certain? "The mathematics don't lie," Alex replied, showing her his calculations. "This defensive system has been running continuously for approximately 2 million years. That would make this civilization the oldest in the galaxy by a factor of 10. The implications were staggering. The oldest known civilization in the galaxy was the Vorthic crystal beings who had achieved space travel 800,000 years ago. But Terra 7's inhabitants had been advanced enough to build planetary defense systems when the Vorthic were still primitive creatures living in caves. Elder Zarthel called another council session when he heard Alex's findings, the crystal beings. Voice carried a note of confusion that Helen had never heard before. "Dr. Bennett, your calculations suggest these beings have existed since before our earliest records. How is this possible?" Alex stood before the assembled council members, feeling the weight of dozens of alien gazes upon him. "Elder Zarthel, it's possible that Terra 7's inhabitants have not just avoided contact, but have actively hidden their existence from galactic history. They may have been observing all of us while remaining completely invisible." A representative from the insectoid Kepler species clicked rapidly, its translator device converting the sounds to words. "If they have been watching us for 2 million years, what have they learned? What do they know about us that we don't know about ourselves?" The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. Every species in the galaxy had secrets, had made mistakes, had fought wars and committed acts they preferred to forget. The idea that someone had been watching and recording everything for millions of years was deeply unsettling. Helen spoke up again. "I propose we establish a research station at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. We need to study this situation more carefully before making any decisions." The council debated for hours but eventually agreed. Within a week, Chief Scientist Maya Rodriguez was selected to lead the research mission. Maya was brilliant and patient, qualities that would be essential for studying a species that refused all contact. Maya assembled her team carefully. She chose Dr. Kevin Walsh, the galaxy's best linguist who spoke over 200 alien languages. She selected Dr. Rachel Stone, a quantum physicist who specialized in energy field manipulation. She also included several cultural specialists and communication experts. The research station was built at the very edge of the Kepler 442 system, far enough away that Terra 7's inhabitants wouldn't feel threatened, but close enough that the team could monitor the planet continuously. As Maya's team settled into their new base, they began careful observations of Terra 7. What they found was even more puzzling than the original discovery. The planet showed signs of multiple different architectural styles, suggesting not just one species but many different civilizations living together. Dr. Walsh made the first breakthrough when he noticed that Terra 7's communication signals contained subtle variations that suggested multiple languages being used simultaneously. "Maya, I think we're not dealing with just one species. The linguistic pattern suggests a coalition of different civilizations." Maya studied the data with growing amazement. "You mean Terra 7 is some kind of refuge? a place where multiple species have chosen to live together in isolation? That's exactly what I think, Kevin replied. And if I'm right, then Terra 7 isn't just hiding from us? They're hiding from something else entirely. The research team worked day and night, trying to understand the mystery of Terra 7. Every piece of data they gathered only made the puzzle more complex. Here was a world that had somehow convinced multiple alien species to abandon galactic society and live together in complete isolation, but the biggest question remained unanswered. Why had they chosen to hide? What had they seen in the galaxy that made them decide that isolation was better than contact? And perhaps most importantly, were they right to hide? As Maya looked out at the distant planet through the station's observation deck, she couldn't shake the feeling that Terra 7's inhabitants knew something that the rest of the galaxy didn't. Something important enough to give up everything for the sake of peace and solitude. The mystery was deepening, and Maya suspected they had only begun to scratch the surface of the truth. Dr. Maya Rodriguez stood in the main laboratory of the research station, watching as her team prepared for another day of attempts to communicate with Terra 7. 3 months had passed since they established the station, and they were no closer to understanding the mysterious planet than when they started. Any luck with the quantum entanglement signals? Maya asked Dr. Rachel Stone, who was working at a complex array of equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Rachel shook her head, frustration clear in her voice. I've tried every frequency and every pattern we know. The response is always the same. They acknowledge the signal, sometimes they even improve our transmission quality, but they won't engage in actual conversation. Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his linguistic analysis station. It's the same with every language I've tried. Vorthak, Zephyrian, Ancient Terran, mathematical sequences, even music. They understand everything perfectly, but they always respond with the same polite refusal. Maya walked over to the main communication console where the latest exchange was displayed on the screen. Terra 7's response had come in just an hour ago, written in flawless English with perfect grammar. Greetings to our distant observers. We acknowledge your continued efforts to establish communication. We appreciate your respectful approach and your patience. However, we must continue to decline your invitations for contact or information exchange. We wish you well in your studies and hope you understand our position. What made the message even more remarkable was the footnote attached to it. Terra 7's inhabitants had corrected 3 mathematical errors in the research team's latest transmission and had provided suggestions for improving their quantum communication array by 30%. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Hunter entered the laboratory, carrying a cup of coffee and wearing his usual expression of controlled frustration. Steve was the station's military advisor, and he had been growing increasingly uncomfortable with the situation. Dr. Rodriguez, I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I don't like it, Steve said, setting his coffee down on Maya's desk. A species that advanced with technology that powerful, and they're hiding from the entire galaxy? That screams dangerous to me. Maya looked at the military officer with patience. They had this conversation several times before. Steve, they've had dozens of opportunities to harm us. Instead, they've been helpful. They've improved our technology just by responding to our messages. That's exactly what worries me, Steve replied. They can analyze and improve our most advanced technology just by looking at it. Imagine what weapons they could build. Imagine what they could do if they decided the galaxy was a threat. Dr. Walsh interrupted their conversation with excitement. In his voice, Maya, I think I've found something important. Look at this pattern analysis. Kevin displayed his findings on the main screen. Months of communication attempts had created a vast database of Terra 7's responses, and Kevin had been studying the subtle patterns hidden within their messages. See these linguistic markers here? Kevin pointed to highlighted sections of text. They're not consistent with a single species. I'm detecting at least 12 different communication styles embedded in their responses. Not just different individuals, but different species entirely. Maya studied the analysis carefully. You're saying Terra 7 is inhabited by multiple alien Species working together? More than that, Kevin said, his excitement growing. Some of these linguistic patterns match fragments found in archaeological sites from extinct civilizations. The Kithera, who disappeared 500,000 years ago, the Moravian Empire, which vanished without explanation 300,000 years ago. The pattern matches are too close to be coincidental. The implications hit Maya like a thunderbolt. You're suggesting that Terra 7 is some kind of sanctuary? A place where civilizations go when they want to disappear from galactic society? It's the only explanation that fits the data, Kevin said. Terra 7 isn't just one ancient species hiding from the galaxy. It's a collection of civilizations that have chosen to leave galactic society behind and live together in isolation. Dr. Stone looked up from her equipment with a thoughtful expression. That would explain the technology. If you had a dozen advanced civilizations working together for hundreds of thousands of years, they could build something like that planetary defense system. Steve Hunter's face had gone pale. If that's true, then we're not dealing with one hidden species. We're dealing with a secret alliance of the most advanced civilizations in galactic history. Civilizations that chose to fake their own extinction. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The galaxy's history was filled with stories of great civilizations that had simply vanished without explanation. Scientists had always assumed they had been destroyed by wars, natural disasters, or resource depletion. But what if they had simply chosen to leave? We need to try a different approach, Maya said after a long moment of silence. Instead of asking them about themselves, let's ask them about us. Kevin tilted his head in confusion. What do you mean? They've been watching galactic civilization for potentially millions of years, Maya explained. They must have opinions about what they've seen. Maybe if we ask them for advice or observations about our own societies, they'll be more willing to respond. The team spent the next 2 days crafting a carefully worded message. Instead of requesting information about Terra 7, they asked for guidance about humanity's development and place in galactic society. The response came faster than any previous communication, arriving within hours instead of days. Young species. Of Earth, your question shows wisdom. You ask not what we are, but what you might become. This suggests growth in understanding. However, we must remind you that wisdom often comes from learning rather than being taught. The path each species walks must be chosen freely, not guided by the experiences of others. The message continued with observations about humanity that were both insightful and unsettling. Terra 7's inhabitants had clearly been studying human society very carefully. You show promise in your balance of curiosity and restraint. Unlike many species, you have not immediately attempted to force contact or demonstrate your military capabilities. This suggests maturity that is rare among younger civilizations. Maya shared the message with her team, and they all felt the same mixture of pride and concern. Terra 7 was judging them, evaluating humanity based on their behavior during this first contact situation. Dr. Walsh made another discovery while analyzing the new message. Maya, look at this. The language patterns in this response are different from their previous communications. It's as if different species within their collective are taking turns to observe and comment on different aspects of our behavior. So we're being studied by multiple alien civilizations simultaneously, Rachel said. They're probably comparing notes about us right now. Steve Hunter stood up and began pacing around the laboratory. This is getting worse and worse. We have a secret coalition of advanced species that has been hiding from the galaxy for millions of years, and now they're studying us like laboratory specimens. Maya tried to calm the military officer's fears, but she had to admit that Steve's concerns were valid. They had stumbled upon something far bigger than a simple first contact situation. Terra 7 represented a shadow civilization that had been watching and judging galactic society for eons. The question that haunted Maya was simple. What had these ancient species seen in galactic civilization that made them choose to abandon it entirely? And what would they do if they decided that the current galactic order was a threat to their peaceful sanctuary? As Maya looked out at the distant planet through the station's observation windows, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was being tested. Terra 7's inhabitants were watching their every move, evaluating whether humans were worthy of trust or represented another threat to be avoided. The test had begun, and Maya suspected that the future of human-alien relations might depend on how well they performed. 6 months after the research station was established, the Galactic Council made a decision that Dr. Maya Rodriguez had been dreading. The pressure from member species had become too great to ignore, and patience was running thin across the galaxy. Admiral Frank Lewis arrived at the research station with a fleet of 12 warships, their hulls gleaming with the advanced technology of 5 different species. Frank was a veteran military commander who had negotiated with hostile aliens dozens of times, but he had never encountered a situation quite like Terra-7. Maya met the Admiral in the station's docking bay, her expression clearly showing her disapproval of the military approach. Admiral Lewis, I must protest this decision. We've been making progress with Terra 7 through peaceful communication. Frank looked at the smaller woman with respect but firmness. Dr. Rodriguez, I understand your concerns, but the Council has been patient for 6 months. We have a species with technology that could threaten every civilization in the galaxy, and they refuse to follow basic galactic contact protocols. That's a security risk we can't ignore. Behind the Admiral stood Captain Tony Clark, his tactical officer and commander. Beth Wilson, who specialized in alien psychology. Beth had been studying Maya's reports and was clearly uncomfortable with the military approach. Admiral, Dr. Rodriguez's data suggests these beings are peaceful, Beth said. Their responses have shown no aggression whatsoever. They've even been helpful, improving our technology just by responding to our communications. Frank nodded but remained determined. Commander Wilson, peaceful or not, they possess technology that's thousands of years ahead of ours. The Council needs to know what we're dealing with. We're not going in with weapons hot, but we are going to demonstrate that the galaxy expects compliance with universal contact laws. Maya felt her heart sink as she watched the fleet prepare for their approach to Terra 7. She had spent months building a careful relationship with the planet's inhabitants, and she feared that this show of force would destroy everything they had accomplished. The 12 ships formed a precise military formation and began their approach toward Terra 7. Admiral Lewis had positioned his flagship, the Galactic Unity, at the center of the formation. The ship's weapons were powered but not targeted, a standard diplomatic gesture that showed strength while avoiding direct threat. Maya watched from the research station as the fleet approached Terra 7's defensive barrier. For months, she had respected that invisible boundary, never attempting to cross it or test its limits. Now 12 warships were about to discover what happened when someone tried to force their way past Terra 7's defenses. The fleet crossed the barrier's outer edge, and for a moment nothing happened. The ships continued forward, their engines running normally, their systems functioning perfectly. Admiral Lewis felt a moment of relief, thinking perhaps the defensive system would allow a proper military approach. Then everything changed in an instant. Every ship in the fleet suddenly went dark. Not destroyed, not damaged, but completely powerless. Engines stopped, lights went out, communication systems failed, and life support switched to emergency backup power. 12 of the galaxy's most advanced warships were rendered helpless as easily as someone turning off a light switch. Commander Lisa Martin, watching from her rescue vessel New Dawn positioned safely outside the system, saw the entire fleet go silent simultaneously. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Dan Parker, frantically tried to raise the disabled ships on emergency frequencies. This is New Dawn calling Galactic Unity. Admiral Lewis, please respond, Dawn transmitted repeatedly, but received only silence from the disabled fleet. The 12 ships drifted helplessly in space, their crews alive but trapped inside vessels that had become nothing more than metal coffins floating in the void. Admiral Lewis stood on his darkened bridge, lit only by emergency lighting, and realized he had made a terrible mistake. Status report. Frank ordered his crew. Though he already knew the answer, Captain Clark checked his instruments using a handheld device powered by its own battery. Sir, every system is offline, not damaged, just non-responsive. It's like something has simply turned off our entire ship. The Admiral had faced hostile aliens before, but this was different. Terra 7 hadn't attacked them or threatened them. The planet's inhabitants had simply demonstrated that they possessed technology so advanced that the galaxy's most powerful warships were toys in comparison. Hours passed with the fleet drifting powerlessly in space. The crews checked and rechecked their systems, but everything remained dead. Admiral Lewis began to understand that they were completely at the mercy of Terra 7's inhabitants. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the situation changed again. Commander Martin's communications officer received a transmission from Terra 7, the first direct message the planet had sent in over 3 months. Don quickly routed the signal to the main speakers. "Rescue Vessel New Dawn, we greet you. We apologize for the concern our actions may have caused. The approaching vessels carried weapons and entered our space without permission. We have temporarily disabled their systems to prevent any misunderstanding or accident." The voice was calm and polite, showing no anger or hostility despite having just neutralized 12 warships effortlessly. The transmission continued. "We choose solitude not from fear, but from wisdom. We have seen what contact brings to the galaxy. We have watched civilizations rise and fall, have observed the conflicts and wars that follow when species interact. We remain apart so that peace may endure." Lisa Martin felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the implications of what she was hearing. Terra 7's inhabitants weren't just ancient and advanced. They were survivors who had watched the galaxy destroy itself repeatedly over millions of years. We understand that our choice puzzles and concerns the younger species. However, we have learned that some wisdom can only be gained through experience, not through teaching. Each species must find its own path to peace or conflict. The message took on a more personal tone as it continued. "To the crews of the disabled vessels, you are in no danger. Your ships will be restored shortly. To the leaders of the Galactic Council, we hope this demonstration helps you understand our position. We possess the power to defend ourselves, but we choose restraint. We could dominate the galaxy, but we choose isolation." Admiral Lewis listened to the transmission through his ship's emergency communication system, feeling a mixture of humiliation and awe. Terra 7 had just proven they could disable any fleet the galaxy could send against them. Yet they spoke with the patience of teachers, addressing difficult students. The transmission concluded with words that would haunt every military leader in the galaxy. "We remain as we have always been. We watch, we remember, and we hope that someday the younger species will learn what we have learned. That true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to choose peace." Suddenly, all 12 ships came back to life simultaneously. Engines restarted, lights returned, and communication systems resumed normal operation. The fleet found itself completely functional. As if nothing had happened, Admiral Lewis stood on his restored bridge, staring at Terra 7 through the main view screen. The planet had just taught him and the entire galaxy a lesson in humility that he would never forget. The fleet withdrew to the research station, their mission a complete failure, but their understanding forever changed. Terra 7 had shown them that some mysteries were more powerful than any weapon, and some choices were wiser than any conquest. Maya Rodriguez watched the fleet return, knowing that everything had changed. The galaxy now knew that Terra 7 possessed overwhelming power, but chose to use it only in defense of their solitude. The question now was whether the galaxy would respect that choice or see it as an even greater threat. 2 weeks after Admiral Lewis's fleet returned from their humbling encounter with Terra 7, Dr. Maya Rodriguez made a discovery that would change everything. She had been working late in the research station's laboratory, analyzing the communication patterns from Terra 7's messages, when something extraordinary caught her attention. Maya called Dr. Kevin Walsh to her workstation, her voice filled with excitement and disbelief. "Kevin, I need you to look at this. I think I've found something incredible hidden in Terra 7's transmissions." Kevin hurried over to Maya's station, where she had displays showing complex, mathematical analyses of every message they had received from the mysterious planet. The patterns were unlike anything he had seen before. "Look at these frequency signatures," Maya said, pointing to the data streams on her screen. "I've been analyzing the subharmonic frequencies embedded in their communications. They're not just random noise. They're fragments of actual languages." Kevin studied the patterns carefully, his expertise in linguistics helping him recognize what Maya had discovered. These look like linguistic markers from dead languages, but how is that possible? Maya pulled up another screen showing historical linguistic data from the Galactic archives. "I've been cross-referencing these fragments with every extinct language in our databases. Kevin, these patterns match languages from species that vanished from the galaxy hundreds of thousands of years ago." The implications hit Kevin like a physical blow. "You're saying Terra 7's communications contain fragments of languages from extinct civilizations?" "More than that," Maya said, her excitement growing. "These aren't just random fragments. They're organized, purposeful. It's like Terra 7's inhabitants are speaking in a collective voice that includes dozens of different species." Dr. Rachel Stone joined them at the workstation, drawn by their animated discussion. When she saw the data, her face went pale. "Maya, if this analysis is correct, then Terra 7 isn't just hiding one ancient species. They're preserving the languages and cultures of civilizations that the galaxy thinks are extinct." Maya nodded grimly. "I think Terra 7 is exactly what Dr. Walsh suspected months ago. It's a sanctuary, but not just for one species. It's a refuge for any civilization that chooses to leave galactic society behind." The three scientists worked through the night, analyzing every piece of data they had collected over the past 8 months. The picture that emerged was both beautiful and terrifying. Terra 7 had become home to the survivors of dozens of civilizations that had supposedly vanished from galactic history. When morning came, Maya called Dr. Carl Brooks, the galaxy's leading historian, and shared their findings. Carl had spent his career studying the rise and fall of galactic civilizations, and Maya's discovery challenged everything he thought he knew about galactic history. "Dr. Rodriguez, what you're describing is impossible," Carl said over the communication link from his office on Earth. "The Kithara civilization died out 500,000 years ago. The Moravian Empire collapsed 300,000 years ago. We have archaeological evidence of their destruction." "Or evidence of their departure," Maya replied. "What if these civilizations didn't die out? What if they chose to fake their own extinction and join Terra 7's sanctuary?" Carl was quiet for a long moment as he considered the implications. "If you're right, then galactic history is a lie. Half the extinct civilizations we've studied might still be alive, living together on Terra 7. The research team continued their analysis, and the evidence became overwhelming. Terra 7's communications contained linguistic elements from at least 30 different extinct civilizations, all woven together in a complex pattern that suggested they were all living and working together. 3 days after Maya's discovery, Terra 7 sent its first unsolicited communication in over 6 months. The message arrived during the station's night shift. Startling Lieutenant Don Parker, who was monitoring the communications array, the message was different from all previous communications. Instead of the polite but distant tone they had grown accustomed to, this transmission felt personal and direct. "Dr. Rodriguez and research team, we have observed your recent discoveries with interest. Your analysis of our communication patterns shows impressive skill and dedication. We believe the time has come for a more direct conversation." Maya was awakened by Dan's urgent call and rushed to the communication center, still wearing her sleep clothes. The message continued as she arrived. "You have correctly deduced that we are not a single species, but a collective of many civilizations that have chosen to leave galactic society. We are the survivors, the refugees, the ones who chose peace over conflict." The transmission paused, and Maya felt her heart racing as she realized they were about to learn the truth about Terra 7. "We represent 47 different species that have over the past 2 million years, chosen to abandon galactic civilization. Some fled wars that would have destroyed them. Others left because they grew tired of the endless conflicts that plague galactic society. Still, others joined us because they discovered, as we did, that true advancement comes not from conquest or expansion, but from learning to live in harmony. Dr. Walsh arrived in the communications center, followed quickly by the rest of the research team. Everyone listened in stunned silence as Terra 7's inhabitants revealed their true nature. We are the Kithara, who chose exile over extinction when our homeworld was threatened by war. We are the Moravians, who faked their empire's collapse to escape the cycle of conquest and revenge. We are the Zenthians, the Korvek, the Altarians, and dozens of others whose names the galaxy has forgotten. The message took on a more solemn tone as it continued. We have watched the galaxy for 2 million years. We have seen the same patterns repeat endlessly. Young species discover technology, expand rapidly, come into conflict with neighbors, fight devastating wars, and either destroy themselves or become the very thing they once fought against. The cycle never ends. Maya realized she was witnessing the most important first contact in galactic history. Terra 7 wasn't just an ancient species. It was a living museum of galactic civilization, a sanctuary where the wisest members of dozens of species had chosen to preserve knowledge and culture away from the chaos of galactic politics. We chose isolation not from fear or superiority but from exhaustion. We had seen enough war, enough conflict, enough civilizations destroyed by their own success. So we created a place where different species could live together without the pressures and conflicts that drive galactic society. The transmission shifted to address humanity directly. Young species of Earth, you have shown qualities that give us hope. Your approach to our situation has been marked by patience, respect, and genuine curiosity rather than fear or aggression. This suggests that your species may be capable of learning what we have learned. Maya felt tears in her eyes as she realized what Terra 7 was offering. The choice before your species is the same choice that faced all of us. You can continue on the path of galactic civilization, with all its conflicts and competitions and wars, or you can choose a different path. The path of harmony, of cooperation, of peace. The message concluded with words that would echo through human history. We do not seek to recruit you or convince you. The choice must be yours alone, made freely and with full understanding of what it means. But know that if your species ever chooses the path of peace over power, the path of wisdom over conquest, you will find friends waiting for you among the stars. We remain as we have always been, the Watchers, the Guardians, the Peaceful. Until we meet again, may wisdom guide your choices. The transmission ended, leaving the research team in profound silence. They had been offered something that no species in galactic history had ever been offered, a choice between the chaos of galactic civilization and the peace of Terra 7's sanctuary. Maya looked out at the distant planet and realized that humanity now faced the most important decision in its history. The oldest species in the galaxy had finally broken their silence, and their message was clear. True strength came not from dominating others, but from choosing to live in peace. The mystery of Terra 7 was solved, but in its place arose an even greater question. What would humanity choose?